to TMZ Live. Harvey Levin here.
Alex Michelson here, filling in for Charles.
So, this is as Joe Biden would say, big blanking deal. The defense in the Diddy case has said that when they take the case over from prosecutors, which should happen in the next couple of days, they will need 1 or 2 days, and that's it. Now, that is, in lawyer code, that means a lot.
Does that mean what? That you think you're winning your case, or what does that mean?
It's not even so much, see, that's an interesting way of putting it. It's not that they're winning the case, it's that maybe they think the prosecution is losing the case. Because it is, remember,
the burden's on the prosecution.
Prosecution has to win. The defense doesn't have to win. The defense needs to create reasonable doubt.
And if they keep talking, maybe that's not good for them?
Well, it may be that what they think is this, that, look, here's the case. They are saying that Diddy is engaged in a criminal enterprise, that his Bad Boy Records is a subterfuge for all the criminal activity that he was coordinating. This is typically called organized crime. The defense is saying, yeah, it's crime, but it's disorganized crime. It's just Diddy using his power in this kind of shotgun approach. So that's what their argument is on racketeering. On the other issues, on sex trafficking, at least as it relates to Cassie and Jane, what they're saying is that there was consent, that it was not force or consent. And that if they believe, and I don't know that they can prove this to the jury, and we don't know how the jury feels, but if they believe that the prosecution hasn't met its burden, that's when the defense cuts down its case. Because initially they thought it was going to be 2 weeks. Now it seems max 2 days.
Which means by this time next week, we could potentially have a verdict.
Theoretically.
Yeah, we could get a verdict, and I think this is very telling to your point about the defense's strategies as they've seen this come out. What they've done is poke holes in the prosecution's case along the way through their cross-examination of these witnesses, and they believe that's enough to say prosecution hasn't met their burden. They could have taken the strategy of putting on their own witnesses to rehabilitate Diddy's image, to have people who said they had great working experiences at Bad Boy. They never saw anything untoward. But instead of doing that, they are telegraphing that the prosecution simply hasn't met their burden. We don't have to do much. We're going to sit back, and the jury should have seen what we've seen. And I think it's pretty telling that they think the prosecution fell this short. I think maybe they're right, except on the Mann Act case, which I think they've sort of given up on.
That's the problem, is that with the Mann Act, all you have to prove is that you have paid somebody, a sex worker, to cross state lines for the purpose of prostitution. And that's a hard one for them to argue didn't happen.
I mean, don't they basically have documented proof of that?
And that carries a big prison sentence. But still, the other two.
The prosecution put on Brendan Paul, who was a personal assistant.
Well, we should say, Jamie, this is the guy. We saw pictures of him at the airport the day of the raid of Diddy's homes. He is there, and the feds arrested him because they say he was the drug mule who did all sorts of things, and he got immunity to testify.
But he said today he wasn't the drug mule.
Right, and he said that, when he set up the rooms for the freak-offs, he saw Jane prior to going into the freak-off room.
And after.
And after, yeah. And, she never looked distressed. I mean, he sounded almost like a defense witness. I don't know why the prosecution thought this was a good witness to put on for their case.
I'm confused by that because what did he, so he set up a hotel room, and even if he got Diddy drugs.
Between 5 to 10 times he testified he got drugs for Diddy's.
Okay.
For example.
Where does that take you?
He said that was a minor part of his duties for 18 months working as one of his assistants. And all the other assistants who testified said they picked up drugs for him for freak-offs too.
Yeah, I don't know that this is all that helpful, though. The prosecution clearly wanted him as part of their RICO case, right? I mean, he's running a criminal enterprise where he has lots of assistants who are... The RICO case is he's using his employees to procure drugs to set up illegal freak-offs. Don't forget that the transportation of the male prostitute to a freak-off over state lines is a crime. And if you're helping him set that up, or you're aiding and abetting in setting that up,
so let me ask you
part
something.
of the RICO case.
So let me ask you something. How many hundreds of thousands of people in Los Angeles would be prosecuted if they got somebody who is a drug dealer to supply them with drugs?
Not many, but many
Oh,
are
please.
not. Many are not the president of Bad Boy Records, who had a coterie of employees helping him to run a criminal enterprise. According
What's
to the
the
prosecution.
enterprise?
This
That's
is not
the
just an
question.
individual person.
What's the
doing it.
enterprise, Derek? What's the enterprise?
The enterprise is, according to the prosecution, he was setting up elaborate sort of sexual escapades through his company employees. And that
Sexual
would be the
escapades.
Rico enterprise.
Sexual
that's
escapades
bedroom-
are not illegal.
But that's bedroom policing, basically.
Bedroom
on,
policing, these are
on a federal level. That's all.
bedroom policing is if he were gay and we were trying to out him. It is not bedroom policing to say that he
Yes,
brought
it is.
in male escorts over state lines, which is a crime whether you guys like it or not.
The
That's
Mann
what
Act.
criminal enterprise is.
The Mann Act. You're right, but Derek,
Okay, that's a crime.
Derek, if these were not sex workers, if it was just Diddy finding some dude to watch that dude have sex with one of his girlfriends, would that be bedroom police?
You're getting closer to bedroom police, but I think you're having to sort of ignore all that's happened in this case. That is not just pure bedroom policing. It is a man who's running a criminal operation. I think the prosecution has made more of their case than you're giving them credit for. And I think that might be an indication why the defense doesn't want to belabor this too much.
They
and
are
wants
not
just
going to
poke
lay
holes.
down and die. Come on, Derek, you know that.
A lot of their cases are just talking about Astroglide lube and baby oil and period blood on walls in hotels. And like you were saying earlier, the defense, they can just let the prosecution shoot themselves in the foot and just do 2 days and rest.
Well, you know, it felt like I was about to pay tuition for law school here for a second, but thank you for bringing us back with the Astroglide and lube to what TMZ is really about, what people really want to hear about. So thank you for bringing us back home.
Hi, I'm Ivy from Atlanta. People have made a lot of jokes about the lube and Astroglide found in his home, but the revelation of military-grade weapons in the same place where his children sleep, this is what speaks to the enterprise, the criminal enterprise that the prosecution has made their case around. I'm on the edge of my seat. I feel like this case could go either way.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, look, even I have serious questions about racketeering. I don't about the Mann Act. And on the other, I don't know how the jury's going to go, whether they're going to find forced coercion or not.
When you guys did your documentary with the mock jury, the jury split on some of the accounts, and it seems like that could be where we end up.
We'll see. I mean,
not a clean sweep, but maybe some of them and not others.
But there could be a verdict, like you said, theoretically, as early as next week.
Next week.
We will see. Okay, we're moving on.
Michelle Obama talking on her podcast with her brother and talking about the possibility of having a boy. Remember, of course, she has 2 girls. They were talking about what it would be like to have a boy, and listen to how she described it.
People say mothers raise their girls and love their sons. And I'd say love your son, but raise him too. Raise him to be as strong as you know he's going to have to be. You know, teach him about how to deal with a traffic stop, but also teach him how to communicate in a marriage and be a listening father.
You should have threw a boy in the mix.
I would. I'm so glad I didn't have a boy.
Yeah.
Because he would have been a Barack Obama.
It's like baby Barack. It would have been amazing.
Ooh, no, I would have felt for him.
How is that not shade?
I mean, I was trying to figure out what's the point.
This is absolutely an unintended jab. Whether or not that's true, that is a topic up for debate. But what I'm thinking here, the main thing I think of when she's talking about a mini Barack Obama, I'm thinking of Barron Trump, kind of where the spotlight's been on him since he was 10 years old. Can you imagine the pressure on a young Barack Obama, his son, just trying to fit in to everything?
She is not saying that at all. She is saying that Barack Obama is a... Look, if you've read their books, their various books, and I have, they're very open that they've had marital trouble over the years. And especially when he was a state legislator in Illinois, she felt he was just absent and wasn't connecting with them. So I think there's a lot of history. And I think she's kind of talking about some of that.
Let's do the more charitable version of what she could be saying.
What is that?
Is it possible that she's saying that it's hard to be a black man and black boy in America right now, that could be complicated?
She said that about traffic stops and whatnot.
And so that's hard. And then you add on top of that the pressure of being the male heir to the Obama family and being the next in line.
Here's why I disagree with
hard.
you there. Here's why. She's not talking about the pressure of having a kid in the White House, because the girls had the same pressure.
I know,
she's talking
if you're a guy and you're the son, it is a little different.
Yeah, but she's talking about, hey, I think you should teach a boy about how to communicate in a marriage. What does that mean other than what I just said?
Yeah, well, this podcast doesn't seem to be great for their marriage. The more,
or it's great for their marriage because they just they put it out. They put it out in their book already.
Yeah.
My name is Big Teases from Chicago. I think she's just saying that the public would put a lot of pressure on if there was a baby Barack. They would be asking, what school is he going to? When is he going to run for office? Is he going to be in Chicago? I don't think, whatever gender they would have been handed, whether it was a boy or a girl, I think they would have been successful. But also, I think being a little Michelle Obama is much better anyway.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
What do you mean why? Being Michelle Obama is everything. There's the education side, there's the personality side, there's the fashion side, but also, being a little Michelle Obama, you're commanding the room. Like, everyone's looking at you, everyone's looking to you for guidance. Like,
he commanded the world.
He was the commander in chief,
and he played basketball.
He's Michelle Obama.
He's Barack Obama. Jeez. Okay, we got to take a break.
By the way, polls show she's right. Michelle Obama, more popular, always has been.
Real quick, I have a friend who went to Harvard Law School with both of them and said he was brilliant, she was brillianter. Honestly. Okay, we're taking a break. When we come back, there's a lot of talk about detaining illegal immigrants. There is a plan in Florida proposed by a state official to create a detention center around the Everglades. The reason it's important, alligators and pythons.
Welcome back to TMZ Live. So the Florida Attorney General has an idea for where to put undocumented immigrants who are detained, and it's being called potentially Alligator Alcatraz. Take a listen.
Attorney General James Uthmeyer here at the Miami-Dade Collier training facility. This is an old, virtually abandoned airport facility right in the middle of the Everglades. This 30-square-mile area is completely surrounded by the Everglades. Presents a efficient, low-cost opportunity to build a temporary detention facility because you don't need to invest that much in the perimeter. People get out, there's not much waiting for them other than alligators and pythons. Nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. This presents a great opportunity for the state of Florida to work with Miami-Dade and Collier counties. Alligator Alcatraz, we're ready to go.
I got to tell you something. It sounds on the one hand abhorrent because you're thinking, oh my God, what are they doing? This sounds cruel. On the other hand, they're trying to make some money. The county is Miami-Dade, and what they're saying is you'll be fine as long as you don't escape. And it is sort of like Alcatraz Island outside of San Francisco, where they built a prison there for a purpose.
Yeah,
so
and then shut it down.
Well, shut it down after decades.
Yeah.
They shut it down after decades. But it was a thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
course.
that's why they did.
The Rock.
That's why they did it.
Which President Trump is talking about trying to potentially bring back.
But it was the current. It was sharks. It kept people from escaping.
Yeah.
And at least most.
The idea of like a moat going back to the old days.
So,
right?
I mean, it sounds just so cruel on the surface, but let's get into what they're actually doing.
Yeah, so Evan Power is the chair of the Republican Party of Florida. He joins us now from Tallahassee. So do you think this is a good idea? And is this going to happen?
Well, here in Florida, we're just built a little different. So it's a great idea. I'm in favor of it. I think, obviously the Governor DeSantis and Attorney General Uthmeyer have been on the front lines of deporting illegal aliens. Our jails are filling up, and this makes perfect sense. What better place to put them than the Everglades? They get the little Florida touch to it.
Well, and you smile as you say it, and that's kind of what bothers me. Because on the one hand, I kind of understand the idea that if you're going to put somebody behind, a wall, you want to make sure they don't get out. Now, the question is, should they even be put behind a wall? That's a whole other thing. but assuming they should, you're smiling because it feels to me like these campaign ads where you see politicians firing guns, M16s, that it's just like, I'm going to kick some ass if you elect me. And it feels the same way where they're showing alligators and pythons in the Everglades.
Well, you can say that. It sounds like a campaign ad, but what you see what we've done in Florida is we've taken these ideas and implemented them. It's why people are flooding into Florida because they believe in what we're doing here. And this is just another step down that way because our residents want to have a safe and secure state. And if housing these illegal immigrants in an alligator Alcatraz is the path, then we're all for it.
The reporting is that this could house 1,000 people 30 to 60 days after construction. When would construction begin? I mean, is this really happening?
I think we're headed to this because I think it's the path. Our jails are filling up because we are locking up the most illegal immigrants of anywhere in the country because of the hard work of our legislature, Governor DeSantis, and our Attorney General. And so we need the room. So I believe we're going to start moving in this direction very quickly.
So how much of an issue has it been that detainees have actually escaped in your other facilities? Because the predicate of this whole thing is, well, you got to keep them from escaping. How many are escaping right now?
I don't think it's an escape problem.
Of course it is. Of course it's an escape problem.
Because
of course
we've done
it's
such
an
a good
escape
job
problem.
of pulling them in.
It's obviously an escape problem because you're selling it based on alligators and pythons.
Well, in Florida we have a land issue, so we need places to put people, and this seems like a great place, is an abandoned place that we can build out pretty easily. So it's a helpful tool in our arsenal.
So we're sitting here in the 30-mile zone in Los Angeles in California, where there's a very different approach from the state and local government when it comes to illegal immigration. Obviously, there's been this battle over the years between Governor Newsom and Governor DeSantis. Can you talk about just how opposite what you're talking about is from a place that believes it to be a sanctuary state versus one that wants to have alligators around the illegal immigration?
Well, I think Governor Newsom and Governor DeSantis have a long history. I think there's a reason why the U-Hauls were sold out in California because they're coming to Florida because they're one out. But I think this shows exactly what we've been trying to say is Florida is the spearhead of conservatism, the beacon of freedom for the country. And Governor DeSantis wants to hold that to the case, while Governor Newsom wants to harbor illegal immigrants that are a danger to society. So I think it shows the difference between our two states and why people are choosing Florida.
It's interesting. I lived in Coral Gables, that's near Miami, for a year, a long time ago. There were a lot of Cuban immigrants and some who were there illegally, who had fled Castro's Cuba. And they have integrated into society there, I think, spectacularly well and are leaders in that community. And when I go back to Miami, it's breathtaking to me to see the diversity and kind of the union between various groups of people. So I don't know, is that still being celebrated? Do I have it wrong, what I'm seeing there? Because that felt like embracing people who were coming in.
No, we embrace people in Florida that come here legally. If you look at what President Trump did, he won non-Cuban Hispanics for the first time in history. He usually wins Cuban Hispanics, and you're seeing that celebrated. But to your point, the city of Miami just this week entered into an agreement with ICE to help with the apprehension of criminal illegal aliens. So we celebrate the people coming here legally, but we want to make sure that legal path is the way they're coming here.
Florida used to be a purple state. Now it's a pretty red state. How much of an impact is this issue of illegal immigration been in making Florida ruby red?
In the last election, immigration was the #1 issue here in Florida. It showed up in all of our polling. And if you talked about us turning from a purple to a red state, in 2018, Democrats had a registration advantage here in Florida. Now, today, we have a 1.3 million Republican voter advantage. So people are buying into our policies. They love what we're doing here. Governor DeSantis and Attorney General Uthmeier are leading the way in that regard.
Well, I will tell you, finally, I loved Coral Gables. I love going back to Miami. I got to say, there's something that makes it feel like home to me, even though it was only a year. So I miss your state.
No, Coral Gables is a wonderful place. You're welcome back anytime.
But you might not be able to get a U-Haul if you listen to them.
That's true. Hey, we really appreciate the time. Thank you.
No, thank you, guys.
Okay, we are going to take a break. When we come back, Bill Belichick and his 24-ish-year-old girlfriend, late for a flight, they ended up at the gate looking very different, and it may show somebody's age.
TMZ's got every freaking thing. Big celebs, big stories, big events.
Justin Timberlake made Portland kids' dream come true by joining a bike bus ride. And they always listen to Justin Timberlake.
Cry me a river when they fall.
It's TMZ.
All right, so Bill Belichick and his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, were apparently late for a flight. They ended up looking very different. Check out this video of Bill Belichick and his back sweat. Now, I am somebody who often sweats when I am late or nervous or all the rest of it. So I feel for this guy. And Jordan Hudson, his girlfriend, who of course is 24, he's 73.
And you're less than half his age.
She looks fine. Apparently they were running through the airport to try to get to their flight last minute.
I have such a theory about this.
Okay.
Babcock, you first, then I'll give you my theory.
It's Edward here.
Oh, Edward.
Babcock's over there. As far as the incident that took place here at the airport, the metadata shows that this was at 6:58 a.m. and the flight took off at 7:14 a.m. So you can kind of do the math. They had just mere minutes to make this flight. In one of the pictures, you could see Bill didn't have any socks on. That's how big of a hurry he appeared to be. It looked like he
or he just wanted to look cool.
Yeah, that too. It looked like he was in such a rush that he barely had time to put back on his socks or shoes or whatever after he got out through TSA. I will say that I have been told that it appeared that Bill's TSA had expired, and that's why they were late. Bill is obviously a normally punctual guy, so that appeared to be the issue.
Okay, so here's my theory. Here's my theory. She is significantly younger than him.
Yeah.
And we have seen him trying to act like a young guy, with the gymnastics on the beach where he's holding her up, right? I mean, all of these things that Bill Belichick is doing to recapture his youth. That's Bill Belichick there.
Right.
That's a guy in his late 60s.
Yeah,
so,
but you could have done this.
Well, hold on. But here's what I'm saying, is that he wants to show her that he's not this kind of couch potato guy that can't keep up with her. That literally is what's happening here. Can he keep up with Jordan Hudson, who is running to the plane? If he's like, she's in front, and he's like, Jordan, I can't do this, I can't do this. And he stops, and she has to come back and walk him back over to the plane. It's not a good look.
But also look what they're wearing. She's got nothing on top, basically, and he's wearing this big, heavy sweatshirt.
She's 24. That's why she
can do it.
But
maybe if she was in a big, heavy sweatshirt.
He didn't want to run. But if he didn't run, and if he said, Jordan, I just can't do it.
Of all people, you're being ageist? You don't think you could have made that?
Look, he's not in my shape. No, I mean, I don't know how much, cardio he does.
Yeah.
But, I just am guessing when you look at him right there, this was a struggle to get to the gate when they were running. And I don't think he wants to say, Jordan, slow down, I just can't run.
Or Jordan, I can't do it.
I mean, am I wrong here?
For what it's worth, Jordan posted an Instagram photo today that shows she's absolutely ripped. I mean, look at these abs. So it's not necessarily, he is dealing with a former Division I cheerleader here. All right, so it's not.
Can we go back to that photo? So is that his meal that we're looking at?
This is the hot girl trying to show, I can eat fried food and still look like that.
Okay, that's not his perspective.
No,
this is what I'm eating.
That's the thing.
Over there looking good.
That's the thing.
Hi, I'm Araya from Virginia, and honestly, for Bill Belichick to be 73 years old and to make a mad dash through the airport, honestly, that's pretty impressive. I'd be curious to see what his 40 dash time frame is, honestly.
I know, it's really funny.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that some of the coaches in the NFL are older and heavier and can't do what they ask their players. And then you've got some younger coaches that are very fit. But if that guy's screaming at you, you still have to do it.
Right. But then that guy can say, hey, look at the girlfriend I pulled. Okay, we got to take a break. I am shocked at this. This is a great story.
I'm not shocked at this. So the possibility that Mark Cuban could have been the vice president of the United States, what he said to Kamala Harris, straight ahead. So for a while, people have talked about the possibility of Mark Cuban potentially running for president of the United States. Well, apparently, Kamala Harris was interested in him potentially being her vice president. At least that's what Mark Cuban told Tim Miller on the Bulwark podcast.
They asked you to send in VP vetting papers, and you said, no, the list would be too long. Is that true? It is true.
I'm not very good as the number two person. And so if the last thing we need is me telling Kamala, the president, that, no, that's a dumb idea, right? And I'm not real good at the shaking hands and kissing.
Well, I don't know about that. If it was you instead of Tim Walz, who the hell knows? I don't know. It feels maybe different.
I mean, obviously it would have been different. My personality is completely different than Tim's. My experiences, my backgrounds are completely different. I think I cut through the more directly. I'm not a politician. And so it would have been different, but it would have been awful. She would have fired me.
It would have been better than
days.
Present situation,
Well, yes, that's true.
So I got to say something about Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban is the Donald Trump on the other side. And I say that not because of Donald Trump's personality, but Mark Cuban's personality is as big as Donald Trump's.
That big?
As big as Donald Trump's personality. But he emotes differently. And there has been a lot of talk about Mark Cuban running for president. He won't do it for a reason. And it has to do, in fact, I did an episode of Objectified with Mark, and he talked to me about this, interestingly, about the party he'd probably run on.
Are you a Democrat or Republican?
I'm fiercely independent.
But if you run, you're going to have to run one or the other.
Maybe.
Well, if you had to choose, what would you choose?
Probably Republican.
How come?
Because I think there's a place for somebody who is socially a centrist, but I'm very fiscally conservative. I wouldn't run unless I have solutions. If I have solutions, then I have something to offer. If I don't, you won't see me anywhere near being a politician.
This was done around 2018, and it was at a different time when Mark was really considering it. The reason he didn't, and I pressed him on this for a long time, over a long period of time, and I believe him, it has to do with his kids, that he wanted to raise his kids and be a present dad.
Yeah.
And he felt if he did this, it just wouldn't be the case. A lot of people wanted him to run, and I think now, if he did, he'd definitely do it as a Democrat.
It's interesting. Obviously, now his kids are almost 10 years older, so it would be very interesting. I would love to know the answer to what would have happened if Mark Cuban was her running mate, Kamala's running mate, instead of Tim Walz. I certainly think they would have done better. Obviously, the Democrats did not do well with men. I think Mark Cuban is very popular with men, and I think he would have really helped. He would have bolstered that ticket, whereas I don't think that Tim Walz did anything positive for her.
No, nothing. And here's the thing, is that Kamala Harris's biggest problem was that she felt like more of the same. And Mark Cuban feels different. He feels fresh. He feels interesting. People would be drawn to him. It's a different storyline. And so I think he would have been a big plus. But it's interesting, he said he didn't want to be number two, which, by the way, is also what Josh Shapiro said to her behind the scenes, the Pennsylvania governor, who a lot of people wanted her to pick. And he was having problems with this concept of being number two. He wanted to be number one. She was very comfortable with Tim Walz, was like, I'm happy to be number two. And then he performed very much like a number two.
Like a number two. Here's my question. If Mark did this, and this is no shade on Kamala Harris, but I think you're right. She was more the same. He is so different. If he eclipses her, that when she speaks and then he speaks and people say, wow, listen to him, does that hurt her?
And it's something that she is very conscious of, that kind of thing too. And she knows what it's like having been a vice president herself.
It's one of the reasons a lot of people think she picked Walz.
Hi, it's Shannon from Pennsylvania. It is so exciting that Mark would be considered as a higher leadership. His compassion for affordable health care during the campaign for Harris, they were thinking outside the box. And it would be so exciting just to think about what he could actually bring to the table. So that would be amazing if he would have accepted, even though he declined.
Politics aside for a second, Mark Cuban is absolutely one of the most impressive people I have ever met in my life. In my life. He is an amazing, amazing man. And from a young age, he was somehow able to balance that kind of just fun and adventurous spirit with this incredible intellect and innovation. And he is just, honest to God, if I had to, you
would vote for him, it sounds like.
Well, I don't want to.
It sounds like you're endorsing him right now.
I don't want to get into politics, but I love the guy.
I will say this. I think that Donald Trump has blown up the political system, for better or worse, and you can't put it back together. And so Democrats are desperate for somebody who can communicate, somebody who's fun, somebody who's interesting, who can reach different voters, including talk to men. And so they want somebody else, and Mark Cuban checks a whole lot of those boxes. Why some people are talking about Stephen A. Smith, which sounds crazy to some people, but just the idea of somebody who is tough, because they feel like everybody has been in this same box and that box is not working.
Yeah, Mark Cuban, you sound like Humpty Dumpty, like you can't put it back together again.
Well, you can't.
No, you're right.
You don't go back.
No, you're totally right.
We're not going back to politics of 1987.
You're totally right. Okay, we got to move on. Kyle Richards and Maurizio Mansky, they have now been separated for 2 years. They have not filed for divorce. They have not reconciled. And everybody is wondering what is going on. He's been seen with a bunch of women. There are all sorts of questions. Is Kyle Richards somehow involved with Morgan Wade? And it's been going on and on and on. They won't give straight answers. They got together last night in Beverly Hills for their daughter Alexia's 29th birthday. It was awkward. I mean, there is a hug that just seems like, can I be anywhere other than where I am right now? Okay, they each hug the other there, and then all of a sudden, okay, that's the daughter, and now that does not feel...
Okay, but is it also not awkward and uncomfortable to have a paparazzi right in your face?
She is on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She lives for that.
She controls that, though. This is not somebody that she controls. She doesn't control the edit.
They could have kissed inside the restaurant.
I mean, I don't know.
No, guys, I have to say, I don't think this has anything to do with the paparazzi. I mean, I think any women can agree that they've been in this situation, whether it's with an ex or a creepy guy at the bar. Her eyes are screaming, help me. She doesn't want to be next to him. She's moving on to the daughters, trying to sidle up with them, join their conversation, and just trying to avoid him. So I don't think
watch her walk away. It's like, oh, get me out of here. Where are my keys?
Exactly. Her eyes were just wide, screaming for help.
Hey everybody, it's Tanisha Valentine based out of Orlando, Florida, and I do have to agree with you. This exchange was very awkward, but I mean, regardless of how old the children are, for the sake of keeping a family dynamic, we did love to see, them come together and reunite. Meanwhile, going through all of this public separation, so hopefully they can continue to just navigate in a peaceful way.
Well, it seems peaceful. It's just make a decision at some point. Okay, look, we got to take a break. When we come back, the hottest show on streaming, clearly, is Love Island. There's no doubt about it. So they decided to do a twerking competition. And then the question is, who is going to be the teacher? Well, it's going to be her, Meg Thee Stallion. And when you see this, I'll tell you, it's pretty crazy. Love Island is just the biggest show on streaming.
Yeah.
Everybody is into this show. So they decided to do a twerking competition. And they certainly have the bodies to do it, no doubt about it, but they need a teacher. And it's sort of like, I don't know, like back in the day, if You wanted to teach students the theory of relativity. You bring in Einstein,
yeah.
right?
So this is the first time on TV that Megan Thee Stallion has been compared to Einstein, but she is, I guess, the Einstein of twerking.
She is absolutely the Einstein of twerking. So check this out. These are the moves that she taught the girls, and she's a good teacher.
Yeah, you wonder why this show is popular. I'm kidding.
No, you wonder why the show is popular because you don't have to wonder. If you watch this show, you are automatically hooked. I do want to say we should shout out last season's season because they put that show on the map so hard. We've never seen a celebrity enter the villa ever, ever, ever. So for that show to get so big that we're now seeing celebrities be diehard fans. Diehard fans, because even when Meg was in the villa, she was like going one by one to each girl, like telling like, oh my God, I love when I see you with Ace, and I love when I see you with Austin. She knew everything.
Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of all the women, all the men and women who got into the housewife shows. That this is a whole new kind of set of celebrities who are just into this thing. But you're right.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. If you go on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, my timeline is actually my story right now on my Instagram is Love Island related. So
everybody.
It is just everywhere.
And way smarter. I mean, Megan Thee Stallion could get way more attention going on this show than she ever would go on a talk show to promote her work or all the rest of it.
No, she literally did. She did this so smart, and even Love Island actually made a note of it. They were like, no one's marketing team is happier than Peacock for being able to get Megan Thee Stallion on there, but she also had all the girls wearing her hot girl summer bathing suit. So yeah, she also got some promotion out of it too, because like you said, Harvey, all of America is watching this show. So yeah, you put 5 hot girls in your bathing suit line, you have Meg in the bathing suit line, you have everyone watching the episode every single night, you're a winner.
Hey, I'm Tori from Dallas, and Hurricane Huda isn't the only person making waves in the villa. Megan Thee Stallion came in and shook things up, not only with the twerking contest, look at those bodies, but she brought in 2 new bombshells, which is really going to spice things up tonight.
Wait, what?
She brought in 2 new people. She introduced 2 new bombshells. You guys clearly haven't been watching the show. A bombshell is when they bring in a new hot person to kind of stir things up, and Meg definitely brought in some hot ones.
In my defense, I'm just about done with Love in the Spectrum, so I'm a little behind, but I love that show. So I'm sorry, Tawanda, but I have got to finish Love in the Spectrum. I have 2 episodes left.
And I spent my night studying nuclear nonproliferation in Iran, but there you go.
Oh, my God. You lose. Okay, we're taking a break.
When we come back, I recently traveled to Austria with Arnold Schwarzenegger for this amazing trip, and he told me something really surprising about his relationship with his son, Patrick. You're not going to believe it when we come back. All right, Harvey, I've talked to you so many times about your documentaries. So now I'm talking to you about my documentary.
I want to hear about it.
I recently traveled to Austria with Arnold Schwarzenegger for the Austrian World Summit, which is something he organizes. He has 60 countries coming together. I was able to speak at this event. It was amazing. And then we got a chance to sit down with him and talk about a whole lot of different things, including his son Patrick, who of course has become this huge star in The White Lotus. Recently, Arnold sat down with Patrick for this Variety Actors on Actors, which was released literally as I was talking to Arnold, and I was really surprised by what he said about it.
I've never had a conversation with my son about acting.
Never?
I don't know why.
Wow.
I think he has this conversation much more with his mother, with Maria, but maybe he felt kind of like he didn't want to bother me or whatever it is, but I always could tell that he was very interested in it. And I've watched him over the years, but he never asked me a question about, how do you do this with the promotion, or how do you go and do it when you go and read for a part, or how do you get a part, how do you spice up the part and when you get it and all this. Never ever talked to me about that.
Well, he did have one thing, the name Schwarzenegger.
which was good and bad, and which is something they talk about together, actually, how it's both helped him and hurt him in some instances. But Patrick said that he did learn about marketing from Arnold in terms of the importance of selling something, and Arnold did take Patrick to movie sets when he was a kid. And that is something that Patrick said was really inspiring for him, getting to see all of that and sort of planted that seed when he was really little. This trip was, by the way, an amazing trip. We also went to Arnold's childhood home in the town of Graz, and he brought some people with him, 150 people from what he calls his pump club, which is this app for workouts around the world.
Wait, is that the house?
So that's the house he grew up in. These are people that are in the Pump Club. They worked out where Arnold first learned to work out as a kid. This kid has autism, and it like changed his life being part of the Pump Club. These are the guys that run it. I mean, it was amazing. And he was thinking of his mother. He said his mother told him when he was a kid, working out is basically a waste of time. Why are you doing this? And then he became this.
Well,
his mother claimed credit for being
He would
her idea.
sneak over to what was like the Y and work out because he didn't want to tell them, and especially his dad, who's this kind of military guy and everything else.
Yeah, so it's an amazing
That's a
story.
really cool trip.
It's so you can look at now at youtube.com/Alex Michelson. You can watch this whole special on this journey with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's one of my favorite shows we put together, and I hope you'll check
That's
it out.
really cool. That is really cool going on that trip. And it was talking about climate change.
Right. It's Europe's biggest climate conference. And so there's leaders from all over Europe came together for the Austrian World Summit. And it was crazy. He asked me to represent American journalists on stage.
What did you talk about?
I talked about the need to show people what's happening and not just talk about it as conceptual. One of the things Arnold talks about is saying climate change doesn't work anymore. People don't know what that means. Right. Talk about terminating pollution. Show people actual solutions for stuff.
You know, I just realized there are now two people. I said there are two of the most impressive. Mark Cuban, one of the most impressive. Him, another. One of the most impressive.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And what's so cool about both Mark Cuban and Arnold Schwarzenegger is they use their giant platforms to lift people up and to highlight issues that usually wouldn't get attention. And that is so cool.
Yeah, it is. What else you guys want to talk about?
Eric Kelly from California talking about the alligator prison. I think calling it alligator Alcatraz says it all. It's not about safety or logistics. It's about fear and spectacle. I mean, turning a swamp into a detention center with gators as security kind of dehumanizes people. Honestly, it's not disturbing. It's disturbing. It's not clever.
Well, spectacle is a good word. One more.
Christine, Portland, about Diddy. With all the things coming out about him, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually does have underground tunnels under his home, or if an even weirder conspiracy theory about him turns out to be true.
Yeah. We will see what happens. Maybe next week.
He still could end up not guilty despite all of that.
He's going to have a tough time in the Mann Act. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Tom Brady may have a leg up on you. We got a picture of this dude at a gym, and I think the definition says it
Is that
all.
surprising? He's had a leg up on a lot of us for a long time.
Yeah. So Tom Brady is kind of obsessed now with working out. I mean, he was never ripped as a player, but man, we have seen from the torso up for a while now that this guy is in great shape.
He's not skipping leg day, though. Yeah. That's one of the things. So he's good at using his body to promote his companies and make money.
So here's what this is. Tom Brady, okay, my take. He's got tons of money. So it's not that he really needs the money from this clothing line, but it's sort of like an Instagram model that he's able to pocket some money and at the same time show the hard work that he's put in. It's no surprise we're seeing all these Instagram pictures, we're seeing pictures like that. Good on him.
You know what's interesting? When he talked with Patrick Mahomes, who's known for having the dad bod, Brady said that he intentionally kept more fat on him when he was a player because when he got hit, he needed it as protection. But now that he's not getting hit anymore, he can just look ripped.
The funny thing is, I just thought, I wonder if Brittany Mahomes is saying, so Patrick, when are you going to retire? We'll see. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.
Thanks for having me here, Harvey.